Welcome to Greenfoot Programming Part 4. In this part you'll be adding collision detection and counters, destroying the peaceful coexistence of the world's inhabitants. Let's get started. Open up class space and add the math import, which we'll need for some calculations. Add the following instance variables. Label will be used to display the next two variables. Planets destroyed, which keeps track of how many planets the player destroyed, and torpedoes, which we'll use to keep track of how many torpedoes the player has left. From here on, I'll grey out code you already have, while new or changed code will be highlighted in black. In this case, you'll create a new label object, passing the world's width and height, planets destroyed, and torpedoes variables, and assigning it to the label variable. setPlanetsDestroyed takes one parameter named amount. It then takes the planetsDestroyed variable and assigns to it its own value plus the amount. After this, it makes two checks. First, it uses the modulus operator, the percentage sign, to check if, when planets destroyed is divided by 15, there is no remainder. If true, it calls the addTorpedoes method, passing 1. The other if statement checks for every 10 planets, adding an enemy at a random location, though making sure it's either 50 pixels to the left or right from the player. getPlanetsDestroyed returns the value of the planetsDestroyed variable to whatever calls this method. setTorpedoes takes amount as a parameter, then increments torpedoes by that amount. getTorpedoes is similar to getPlanetsDestroyed, except it returns the torpedoes variable. Now save and close space. And open class label. Changing the comments won't do much, except for explaining what the constructor does. In this case, you'll change a label to include arguments int imPlanetsDestroyed and int imTorpedoes. You will also change lines image_planetsDestroyed and image_torpedoes to include this argument. Now it's time to add the act method. It is similar to the constructor, but calls getTorpedoes and getPlanetsDestroyed to update the image each act. This means the player gets to see the latest planets destroyed and torpedoes at all times. We're done with class label, so save and close it. Open up class torpedo and add the call destroyEnemy. Method destroyEnemy first uses getIntersectingObject to determine if it intersects an enemy. It then casts or converts the object into type enemy before assigning it. Finally, it determines if it is the torpedo's enemy, and if so, removes the enemy and itself from the game. Now, save and close it. Open up the player class, adding the following two method calls. Also, in the checkKeyPress method, add the following line, which checks if the player actually has torpedoes to fire. And if the player does fire a torpedo in method fireTorpedo, it should reduce the torpedo counts by 1. Next, we add the checkForPlanet method, which checks if the player intersects with a planet, and if it does, removes the planet, calls the method to increment planets destroyed by 1, and finally adds a new planet to keep the player from running out of planets. checkForEnemy checks if the player intersects with an enemy. Unfortunately for the player, this means the game ends, as the player is removed from the game. Now, save and close this class, and save and compile the scenario. Now you finally have a challenge. But perhaps the game is a bit bland on the side of animation and sound. Of course, if you join me in the next video, I'll show you how to add that. Thank you for watching, and hopefully until next time.